Hi, welcome to Full Moon Paranormal's Halloween special. I'm your host and founder of FMP, Brett Blanchett. Sitting next alongside me is co-founder of FMP, Thomas Allen.
Hello.
We're here today to provide you with little information and knowledge of the paranormal and what it is that we do. Plus, later on in the show, Tom and I will share with you some of our best creepy and spooky experiences from investigations we've been on. But first, we want to let you know, the audience, a little bit about our background when it comes to the paranormal. Tom, let's start with you.
Hi, folks. I've been into the paranormal since my early teens when my aunt had bought me a book called The Malphurus Malfcurum, The Witch's Hammer. And since then, I've studied theology, philosophy, and demonology. And like anything else, it's an ongoing process, and I'm always learning. With that being said, Brett, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. I got into the paranormal at a much older age when I started opening my mind to the possibilities of what happens when we die. I did some research and later joined a team of investigators, and from there started my journey in the paranormal field. So Tom, it's Halloween season. You mentioned the book, The Witch's Hammer. Share with the audience a little bit about that book.
Well, the book was written in 1487, Germany, and it was a Roman Catholic book that they actually used during the Salem witch trials to condemn the witches. And the really cool thing about this book is this book is over 200 years old, and it's still to this day the second most popular selling book, next to the Bible, which that has a really great print run since that was, AD. But I loved it, and ever since I read that book, it tells about the supernatural. It even talks about vampires, ghosts, and werewolves, which today people think, no way. But back then, they really had a firm belief in this.
Yeah.
And ever since I read that, it just opened up the door to the paranormal and the supernatural. I just love it, and I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah, that's really something that a book like that can be so popular after 200 years.
It just kind of gets in you and just takes hold.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, well, right now we're going to talk to you about the most common types of spirits that are out there, which is intelligent, residual, demonic, and poltergeist. For now, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the intelligent and residual types of spirits. An intelligent spirit is basically what it says. It's smart. There's really three different types of intelligent spirits that I myself like to think of. One is intelligent, where it knows where it's at, knows what time it's in. It'll do things to get your attention. There's another type of intelligent spirit, which is it knows it's there, but it's trapped in its own time. Mm-hmm. It's more like if you were to communicate with it, mm-hmm. you'll find out that it's maybe a spirit that's trapped in 1950, living the 1950 life, but it knows it exists. And then there's another type of intelligent. Again, they say it's intelligent. I don't like to use that word for it. This other intelligent spirit that's out there is one that doesn't really realize that is deceased. If anybody's ever seen the movie The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Prime example.
I'm not going to give away the movie. Who hasn't seen it, I suggest you watch it, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, prime example of how that actually works. That movie, I don't know that I'm dead, but you are.
Yeah, that's a creepy one. The next one is residual. Residual, one that fascinates me the most, and probably a lot of other paranormal investigators or researchers, is residual. It's basically like a spirit that's trapped in time. It doesn't know it exists. It rolls itself over and over and over. It's like an imprint that someone marked in time. It's like a
kind of like a stain or something.
It's like a stamp where it could be 2:00 in the morning. It could be sometime during the day. It will do its thing. And theory says that what's the reason for that is this spirit had a very horrific death, and they say that this spirit leads up to that event. So it basically, we don't know how it happens. We don't know why it does. That's just the theory of it. It just, like I said, it doesn't know you're there. It doesn't know it's there. It just keeps on going and going and going, and
Kind of replaying. Huh?
yeah, it just replays.
Yep, over and over again.
Right. So Tom, talk to us about demonic and poltergeist.
Poltergeist activity, great. Well, demonic activity is really interesting because people really confuse the two. They confuse an evil spirit. Oh, if it's evil, it must be demonic. Well, no, it's not even close. The two are exactly the same, because demonic means it never was once human. It never walked this earth on earthly legs. It's a demon, or AKA a fallen angel, depending on how you want to pen that. But an evil spirit, say if you were an evil person in life and you died, well, what you are in life is kind of going to be what you're going to be in death. So if you're this really mean person, you're going to be a mean ghost, and you might scratch, you might bite. But if it were a demon doing something like this, it would be accompanied by the smell of sulfur, almost like rotten eggs, you know. So it's like, and ghosts don't have emanations of sulfuristic smell. Demons have that type of thing. That's why if you were to exorcise a home and there was a demon there, you could do like Michael's prayer and it wouldn't do anything to a ghost, because it's not a demon, it was a person. But it would drive out a demonic presence.
Right.
So demons and spirits, you know, totally different. Spirit was once human, a demon was once a fallen angel.
Right. And just
Different
so our audience knows that, you know, a demonic spirit is very rare.
Yes, very.
It's nothing that
Doesn't happen a lot.
No, it doesn't happen a lot. And you know, it's nothing to really fear. But we can, you know, that's that. All right, let's talk about the poltergeist.
Poltergeist activity, that's kind of a real weird one to talk about, because people think, oh, I have a poltergeist, things are moving around in my house. Well, ghosts can do that, you know. Poltergeist actually usually happens with either with children, girls or boys. When they hit puberty at like 13 or 14, you know, their bodies are changing, you know, chemicals are changing, and like anything else, energy transmits into something solid, okay? So when these changes take place in adolescence, that can actually cause poltergeist activity in a home. Things can move around, things can fly off the wall. Even if that child is in, say, the bathroom, things can be happening in the living room, you know? Because, you know, that transcends into energy. They even did an experiment, just a little quickie, an experiment. It was called Conjuring Henry or Edward. They made a tulpa, and a tulpa is an Indian word for a ghost that people make from the mind. If enough people concentrate on making a tulpa, the energy transcends into an actual sentient being or a ghost, and that can be made through sheer will alone. Poltergeist activity is kind of similar to that. So that's why I think that's real interesting when people, you know, talk about poltergeist activity. That's centered around a person, not around a home, a person.
Right, and you know, a lot of people get the misconception of poltergeist being like a demon, which it's not.
It's not.
It's just a noisy.
We covered that.
It's just a noisy spirit. That's all it is. I mean, I don't even really think that a poltergeist will even harm you in any way. It's more.
They like to move things.
Like with the movie Poltergeist, you're seeing.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, you're seeing people
over the top.
Yeah,
way over the top.
Nothing like that happens with poltergeist.
It's basically they like to like move drawers, rattle tables,
Right.
that kind of thing. But they don't generally harm the person in the home.
Right.
Like I said, poltergeists are always centered around an individual, never around the house.
Right.
It's like it's like the person's being haunted, but they're doing it to themselves, because puberty, a lot of changes happen, a lot of stuff goes on.
Right.
Energy.
Right
there. Yes, sir.
All right. So now we're going to talk to you a little bit about the equipment that we use. This is where it's a little bit of a technical side. So let's start with the spirit box. Now the spirit box is something that it's like a little walkie-talkie, about the size. They come in all different shapes and sizes. What it does, it has like a radio frequency, AM, FM. Usually we use it on an AM type dial. It's basically like a white noise, and what it is, it can pick up disembodied voices. Sometimes you might get a little sentence out of it, but not really. It's more of just a word here and there. It can be difficult to pick up something like that. It depends on how much strength the entity has to speak. So that's that. Let's see. The motion sensor is next.
That's a fun one to do. Yeah,
that's one that you're aware of.
Yeah, I can. I think I can do that one pretty well for Tech Talk. The motion sensor is like any other motion sensor. Basically, if you set it up on a stairwell, we're doing an investigation. and something would move in front of the motion sensor, and then it would go off like a car alarm. It would go like beep, beep, beep. And if we had a camera there as well, as we hear the sound, we could actually see if there's anything passing in front of the camera as well. It's like motion sensor is pretty much brass tacks.
Yeah, I mean, we
goes
don't
in front of it.
use it a whole lot. I think we maybe used it twice.
I think so, yeah.
I remember one last time that we had used it. We had set up in the corner of a hallway.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I forgot it was there.
And
I
you
walked
set it
by
off, didn't
The
you?
alarm is so loud. It
Scared
the
everybody.
bejesus out of me. It was great. So I think we decided really not to use that one too much.
Because I think we were setting it off too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
yeah,
were.
But it happens. It happens.
Got to have a little fun with it.
Right. Next, we have the thermal camera. Now, this is a camera that actually not only used by paranormal researchers, but it's also used with contractors to find like leaks in the window area or doors where
Wires that have been cut too.
What's that?
You know, like wires that have been cut, you can.
Yeah, I mean, it'll see through walls. It can see all kinds of, hot and cold temperatures also. So when we use it, it's entities or spirits, whatever you like to call them, generate a cold air mass. So
Like
if
a cold
we're
spot,
like,
right?
Yeah, so if we're like in a warm room, say, in the area that we're looking at, you get your hot and cold areas. Sometimes you can spot an entity. If it's cold enough, if it's manifested itself enough, you can see like maybe the shadow area of it. It'll be maybe like a dark blue color. You'll be able to see in the next picture we have, which is a hand photo. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like, you'll see the middle of the hand is quite red, and the finger outline of the fingers and the fingertips are quite cold.
Very cool.
Just like when you're outside in the wintertime, the tips of your fingers get
body
like
temperature
ice.
fluctuates.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's the thermal camera. Next is the K2 meter, which is another device that I personally love to use. It's a great way to find an energy source and also to maybe speak with a spirit. There is a technical side to it that I won't get into because it's kind of a little
Too wordy.
Too wordy.
Too wordy, yeah.
But it's also an EMF meter, which stands for electromagnetic field. I always have a hard time saying that word.
Yeah, me too.
But it just measures the strength of energy that's around. Like if you were to rev up a microwave, say, and you were to stand with the device with it on, you could stand probably like 3 feet away and the thing would start reading. It's got, as you can see in the picture, 5 little lights. The one to the far right would be the strongest. So we use that also with when we're trying to communicate. We'll set it to the table. We'll ask some questions. And we explain to the spirit how to respond to it by simply just touching the device. And if the spirit has enough energy,
it will set it off.
It can set it off easily. Yep. We've used that before.
Quite a few times.
Yep. We had a strong. I'm trying to think of the word. I had gone to Higgins Armory. We did an investigation there. Tom wasn't with us that time, but we had gone into the refurbishing room where Mr. Higgins used to refurbish all of his equipment, and we set it down there and we started asking questions. And every time it would go to a yes answer, the lights would
turn red.
Fluctuate off and on, and we tried to figure out. We tried to debunk it. Was there an energy source coming from somewhere? We couldn't find anything.
Sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah, it was great. We were down there for quite some time. All right, so now the EVP recorder, which stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon.
Yeah. That's a neat one.
Yeah, it's a very basic, like tape recorder. It's just digital.
Yep.
And it's very easy that we use. It's just we set it somewhere, we ask questions, and again, just like the ghost box or the spirit box,
has the white noise in the background.
It can pick up a digital imprint of a spirit if it's trying to speak, which we have a great story for that later on. We'll have to tell you all about. What else we got next? We got the full spectrum camera, which is called. This device, again, you can get anywhere. You can buy it at Walmart, whatnot. But with this full spectrum, what it is, and again, this also comes with a lot of tech talk, but I'm going to explain it as easy as I can. We see natural light in our own eyes. And what this camera does, it sees through the ultraviolet. and or infrared lighting that we cannot see. So if there's an area where there is, say, an entity present and we can't see with our own eyes because of the certain kind of lighting, even with a regular picture, the infrared or the ultraviolet type snapshot, or even it comes in video as well, may be able to pick up in that light. We don't have that camera right now, so unfortunately, it's no fun for us to, it'd be great if we had one. But as you can see in the picture that we're going to show you next, you'll be able to see how I believe it's the ultraviolet picture you're going to see. There's no ghost in the picture. I just basically wanted to get you to see what the kind of lighting it is that we can't see
with our own human eyes.
With our own human eyes, correct.
Exactly.
So last but not least is
laser
the
grid.
laser grid. Which,
I like that one. Yeah, I do.
Tom loves this one.
I love the laser grid. It's like the coolest thing. It's like, boom. It's just basically, it's a camera. It's like a pen. It also looks like a pen that stands on a tripod, and it shoots this laser grid on a wall. It's probably like 100 like green laser dots, like boom, 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 boom. And if anything were to go in front of that laser grid, you could actually see the shadow pass over it. So if you're in a totally dark room and you want to say if the person's complaining, oh, I'm seeing shadows in my house, well, hey, you'll set up the laser grid. If that shadow were to go in front of the laser grid, I've got solid proof that something passed in front of me in near total darkness over the laser grid. And that's why this is a great ghost hunting instrument. What about you, Brett?
And unfortunately, we haven't had anything pass in front of it. We used it a number of times.
No luck yet.
It's just again, when we do investigations, it doesn't. 80% of the time, nothing will happen. So when we go in and we set all the pieces of equipment up, there might be, a dozen pieces of equipment that we set up.
And only two things happen,
Right,
yeah,
and then, you get nothing throughout the night, and you have to realize that. So with the laser grid, I tell you what, if anything was to walk through that, I'll probably
well, that's why I'm going to use it then.
Get a little creeped out if I see that.
I'm going to use it then because I want it to happen to me.
Right.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Which leads us to our stories that we have for you guys. This is where we share our experiences with you.
Fun stuff.
Fun stuff. Some stuff gives you goosebumps. I know whenever I mention to people that I do this on the side as a hobby, they get goosebumps every single time
Hobby and our passion.
Exactly.
Our
exactly.
passion, totally.
I guess, I don't know, you could start off with one of the stories that we've been to.
Well, I mean, the story I liked a lot and I think was really neat was we were doing a ghost hunt and we actually caught the voice or the bark.
It was a bark, yeah.
A bark, okay. The voice or a bark, whatever you want to say, of a dog. And it's just like, that one tripped me out because it's like, okay, well, what do we got, a ghost dog going on here? Right. I had to laugh. Dogs have spirits. Well, apparently, maybe animals do have spirits. I'm not going to concrete say that, but the proof is in the pudding, and that's what we heard.
And yesterday, when Tom and I were hanging out, we were talking about this, and that he was mentioning, we won't get into a lot of it, but he mentioned that dogs were not supposed to, or animals were not supposed to have souls.
But you know what? I stand corrected. I'm not going to say yay or nay, but I'm going to say we got something interesting. And we got an incorporeal dog bark.
And so when I had listened to the EVP, I'm just listening and listening and listening, and the people that did live there did have, in fact, have a dog. Mm-hmm. But we could tell when that dog barked, and I think it only barked a couple times that night. And this was a small house.
Right.
And it was in the middle of the night, so it was quiet. So if there was a dog outside, we would have heard it. We would have debunked that very quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we heard this very faint bark,
like in the distance, almost like from a distance.
It was very, very creepy, and it was very distinct. You could definitely tell it was a dog barking. It wasn't,
it didn't sound like it was close.
On the floor. There was no footsteps.
Nothing.
But
that was faint dog bark. And you're going to say, oh well, it could have been that dog. But if we would have heard that dog bark within the house, this dog would have barked loud. And this wasn't loud. This was like from a distance, very far away.
Right.
And so that's, that was a really cool one because me being who I am, I'm always first saying, no, animals don't have spirits. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it to Brett. I'm on the fence about it. We'll discuss it more later.
Yeah, that was definitely different. That was definitely a new thing for me because I have never heard a
ghost
spirit
dog.
of an animal.
Yeah, really.
So so the other one of the others that we did was it was somewhat interesting. It was like It was the candle one.
Oh, the candle
where
lady. She was fun.
Yeah, apparently, from what I can remember, we done this one years ago.
Yeah.
And
You kind of called me in on that.
it was, we called
Yeah,
Tom
yeah.
in on this one. I was with another team at the time, and
I was a pinch hitter.
apparently, yeah, you were
I was a pinch hitter.
It was one of those where everybody couldn't make it, and I went up to the owner of the group back then and said, "Hey, I got a friend named Tom, and he knows all about this stuff." So he went with us, and
I
the
break
story
for ghosts.
was that.
I break for ghosts.
Yeah, you break for ghosts. We went and apparently, from what I can remember, was this woman who, what was it? Did she die in the house?
I believe she died. Yeah, there was
a fire.
There was
of
a
some
fire, and she had died when the fire was
right. And
happening.
then and the stories were saying from the people who lived there that anytime they had a candle going, it would just blow out. So we did a little trick, not to say it was this ghost that did it or if it was just coincidence.
Interesting.
We had one of those little battery candles, and
yeah.
we just basically turned it to where the connection turned the little light bulb on.
Very slight.
And I again, this was years ago, but I think maybe you had said, could you blow the candle out?
Right,
I think
yeah.
It was something like that.
Yeah,
it was actually a candle like you see on the table right here.
Right there, one of those LED candles.
Right, and sure enough, probably when I would say in a couple seconds, 3 seconds, it just
went off.
We tried to bang the table to see if it would connect.
See if it would like
Excuse
shake
me.
the connection. And we banged it, we kind of jimmied it a bit, but nothing turned it off except when we asked her to do it.
Yeah.
And we were just like, whoa. I mean, it was like really cool because you had to be there when you ask something to do something and it happens right there in front of you.
Right, and
it's
then
the coolest feeling.
And when something does happen, that's when we go into the debunking stage to try to figure out,
Okay,
did it
really happen?
we heard what we heard, or why
Exactly.
did we? Right, but
Science
this is
first.
something we just said. You know what? It could have been a coincidence, but at the same time,
Still neat.
It was the only time that it happened.
Still neat.
And that was really the end of that investigation. That's all we got out of that night.
Yep.
There was another. Excuse me. There was another investigation that we did.
The basement.
The basement one, which is probably one of the best ones I've ever experienced.
Because at the same time, it both happened to us, which was really cool.
It did, and again, actually, maybe this was the same house. Now that I think about it, because you were with us, me.
Yeah, because after that, we had split up into teams,
That's
and
right.
me and you went downstairs.
That's right. All right. So I
Same story.
scratched the thing I said last.
This is part two to that.
This was part two of that.
There we
right.
go. Roll with it.
So we went downstairs into the basement, and I think the owner had said that they were experiencing some
was being
pictures
taken
missing.
off the wall. Yeah, they would be off the wall when he came home. His Patriots pictures, he would take them off. They would be on the
Right.
floor.
Yeah,
And they were
so-
heavy too. Like,
And so we went down there. Yeah, they were big. And,
Yeah, they were
and
big.
So we went down there, and Tom sat on one side of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I sat on the other. Now, this basement was like a half-finished basement. Apparently, there was also limestone
Mm-hmm.
in the basement, which, not to get off topic, is another conductor? Is that the word I'm looking
yeah,
for?
kind of
Or-
like
which-
an energy conductor.
right.
It conducts energy.
Right. Limestone is known for that. So what happened that night could have been,
Kind
help
of
with-
as like a conductor until they bring that energy to do what it did to those
Right.
pictures.
So it was, I think it was like a May night, and
Decently
it wasn't
warm?
It wasn't cold. It wasn't warm. It was just bright
It was
downstairs.
like, what, 60 something? maybe?
And I can't recall what happened first, but kind of at the same time, Tom started getting real cold.
Like,
Yeah.
like not like a little cold, like I was getting to the point where like somebody had thrown like ice on my arm.
Yeah, and at the same time, or
Fast.
roughly the same time,
Yeah.
I started getting a lot of pressure into my head. And the theory of that is that when a spirit is manifesting, it's pulling energy from some sort of source. So if you're right next to an area where there's an entity and is just drawing the energy,
There's a cabin pressure
you'll
on your
feel,
head,
yeah,
like
you'll
in a
feel like
plane.
a pressure, like if you're up in an airplane.
Yeah. it's-
Right.
Yep.
And
Cabin
so
pressure.
we decided to get up and walk to the next part of the basement. And we sat there for maybe, I think, 5 minutes or so.
Thereabouts.
And the room was fine. Like I said, I don't know if you mentioned it before, but the room was getting colder.
Very cold, quickly.
It must have dropped about 10 degrees or so.
Easily 10 degrees.
And
Easily.
we went around looking around the cracks of the window, see if we could feel a draft. But
No draft, it was-
honestly, the room that we were in,
Was
it
made
doesn't
well.
it doesn't get cold that quick.
No, not
You
that.
know,
That
it
was
takes
seconds.
a while. You need a great big breeze to come through.
Yeah.
So like I said, we checked the windows and we checked for drafts. There was nothing. Went to the other side of the basement.
It was a finished basement, that's why.
It was half and half.
Yeah, it was half and half. The other side was, but the other half that was really finished nice, so it was made well.
Right. So we went to the other half of the basement, which was the temperature was normal, room temperature. We sat there, like I said, 5 minutes, maybe a little longer, chit-chatted. And we went back into the room, and we noticed that the room had gone right back to room temperature.
Normal,
All that cold air that we felt was
and the
gone.
pressure was gone too, remember?
Everything
like you
seemed
felt fine.
back to normal.
Yeah, you felt fine.
So we started walking back to our areas where we were sitting, and as soon as I turned around, I literally saw about a 5-foot dark shadow.
Zip across?
Just zip right across.
And that's where we should have had the laser grid people.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's where we should have had the laser grid people.
Yeah, we didn't have it at the time,
Didn't have it
unfortunately,
then.
But yeah, that would have been great. And again, this is stuff that you just you want to see it. You want to see it happen, but you can't count on it every time you go to an investigation.
Sometimes you get crickets, you get nothing.
Yeah, so. I mean that's the norm.
Nature of the beast.
And that night we went upstairs, and again I'm not going to say names, but the owner of the group that was up there, we asked her if she had experienced anything, and I don't recall exactly what she said, but I know she had some sort of experience. I think it was almost similar to you. I think it was cold in a certain area.
Yeah, it was, and she said she was feeling that.
And we had not even talked about what we
at
experienced.
All. Yeah.
So
we weren't
looked
communicating
at that,
with each other.
Yeah, and again we looked at that and we said, yeah, there's definitely something in this house.
There's definitely paranormal activity going on.
We couldn't figure out what it was. Nothing was communicating with us. We tried. So it was
quite
just
a bit. We tried quite a bit.
Yeah, we did.
But it was still a successful investigation to me.
It
Because
was.
we got some activity.
If something happens, it's successful.
It's a win for us. It's a win.
It doesn't matter if it's just a footstep.
It's a win.
It's
a win.
It's definitely a win.
It's a total win.
With footsteps, we did a house here in town, and we did it 3 times, I think, within about a year and a half or 2 years' time. I think we did it. It was a friend of a friend. She was, I think she was Native American, and Native Americans have a tendency to be very spiritual. And I would say I can't recall what happened the first time we were there. I remember there were actually the rose beads.
The rosaries.
What do you call it? The
Rosaries.
And we walked into this girl's room. Apparently, this young girl at the time was studying Wiccan,
which can lead in. And I just want to say this. Now, not all Wiccan is bad. It's not all satanic. But unfortunately, Wiccan is the practice of magic, which is bending the natural to your will, which is kind of a no-no. So if you do mess with that stuff, you are liable to get maybe some problems that can acquire from that. So, word of note, you play with that stuff, careful.
Yes, and it goes along with the Ouija board too.
Just never play with the Ouija board.
With that. I know,
no, don't play with it.
And not to get off topic, but while we're on it, real quick,
just
bring it up. People ask all the time when we go in, we usually ask if they have a Ouija board. And I'm a skeptic on the Ouija board. I personally still would not touch it, but I'm still a skeptic on it. People ask us all the time, well, why does stores sell it? Why does Walmart,
Because it's a game by William Fold, unfortunately.
And it makes money, and it's a creepy thing. People don't realize that it's very simple, even though it's just a board and it has letters and numbers on it.
It's a lightning rod for the paranormal.
That you can still open up some sort of porthole.
Yeah, it's a lightning rod for the dead. I mean, it just shoots up
It is giving them the way of communicating with you and then opening something up. I mean,
so don't play with them.
That's what they say. I haven't experienced anything like that, but
That's another show.
Right, that'll be for another show that we have.
And I'll tell you, my experience was with one. Unfortunately, I'm guilty. I bought one. Again, that's the next show, and I'll tell you what happened when I did.
Right.
Next show. Rolling forward.
I think you told me that story a long time ago. You'll have to run that by me again because I don't remember.
Next show, you guys will love it. And I learned my lesson the hard way.
Right. But get back onto some of the stories that we had. We were talking about footsteps, or I mentioned just hearing a footstep as a win.
Which was very cool.
That house that we did that we were just talking about, again, I'll get to the footsteps in a second, but let's get back to that rosary that we had found.
Yeah.
I don't remember the story behind it, but it was in the girls' room.
It was in the girls' room.
And I'm in one of the other parts of the room, and one of my investigators had come to me and say, "Smell this." Took a smell, and smelled just like roses. And earlier, it had not smelled anything like roses.
But then
And
later it did smell like
it
roses.
did smell, and how something like that old would smell like that was a mystery to me.
It was interesting.
Very interesting. That
Even
was
the
the
attic
thing.
was interesting that you guys set me up in, because since I was the shortest person, I was thrown up into the attic.
Oh
Very-
yes, I remember.
Everybody didn't go up but me. Brett's like, all right, Tom, go up in the attic. I'm
Yeah,
like, why do I have to go in the attic?
I'm not really much of an attic person when it comes to
I went in the attic.
paranormal investigations. I've had creepy things happen to me when I was
He
a
doesn't
kid.
go in
so-
attics. I go in attics. That's my job.
Right, that's your job. So, like I said, we went in there 3 times, and the last time that we were in there, we were all in one room. This was near the end of the night.
Yeah, I
and I
remember.
had headphones on, and I heard what sounded like the little pitter patter of little
Feet running across the
yeah, it
floor.
sounded like little feet running down the hallway.
Kind of like thud, 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 thud.
And whether it was like tap shoe sound or just like a child with loud
Those-
little shoes.
yeah, those plastic
It was
shoes they wear.
something like this little child was running down the hallway, and I thought maybe I was the only one that heard it because I had the headphones on, and
Right.
usually with headphones you can hear much clearer.
Yeah, it's very select.
And I said, "You guys hear that?" And everybody was like, "Yeah, we heard
Yeah.
that." We tried to figure out where that came from.
And we tried to like recreate that
Right,
as well.
and people, and some of the people that were there were like, "Oh, maybe it's the dog downstairs," because she did have a dog downstairs, but it was in the basement, and it was
wasn't
even
clicking,
another
though.
room in the basement.
Yeah,
So
like it
we
wasn't
had to-
clicking like claws. Like this was like, you know how when children wear those cheap sneakers when you're a kid, you have like plastic soles?
Yeah,
When dogs run across something, it's the clicking of nails. And I know what that sounds like.
Right.
This sounded like those cheap little Nikes you get when you're a kid, and they're hard plastic running across
yeah,
the floor.
exactly what it sounded like.
Or a
Yeah.
girl's black little tap shoes or something. You know what I mean? So,
And
yeah.
we tried to get that sound to appear again.
And we tried to debunk it,
Well, yeah, and we also tried to, and I think I do remember that night. We tried to.
It was a good
if
night.
it was a child, we tried to get it, to
Communicate.
where it felt comfortable with us, and maybe run around again or play with the ball that
Yeah, we put the
had.
ball out, the little rubber ball
Yeah.
we put out for it.
And
Nothing.
Nothing happened. So again, this is why we do this, because it's such an interesting field to be in,
It's the best field.
and to try to find out what's causing all this phenomenon. And it's
great.
It's a great thing. Any other stories you could think of that?
I have one, and I'm going to tell it to you guys. So this is a really good story for Halloween. I was married, right? And I actually, on my honeymoon, I went to a bed and breakfast inn in the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina, right? Really cool bed and breakfast inn. I loved staying there. It was wonderful. My first night there, it's around 9:30, about 10. We go to bed. Make a long story short, me and my ex were sleeping in bed. There's a lamp to the left of me, and the lamp I had noticed was screwed on. Like one of those old brass lamps. They have the screw right there, lampshade like so. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that was on there pretty solidly. So she turned off the lights. I'm about half hour into sleeping. I am not asleep yet. I'm not dreaming. I'm totally awake because I'm kind of tossing and turning. I'm not comfortable. It's a feather bed, allergic to it. So, really fun night.
Yeah.
So then the lampshade pops off. Like, I'm not kidding you, as God is my witness. This lampshade, poof, pops off. Like, jumps off the lamp. I'm like, okay, kind of weird. I'm picking it up. I'm putting it back on. I screw the little nut in place, going to bed.
Yeah.
As I'm trying to get back to sleep, out of my room in the hallway, it's totally black, totally dark. I see a white light coming from under the door jamb. I'm talking like a halogen light, very bright, very bright. I'm laying there, and I'm not going to lie to you, I got scared. So there I am in bed, sweat running down my face. I feel paralyzed, like I can't move.
Yeah, like a
honestly,
bad dream. I'm like a horror, like
I'm
a nightmare.
too scared to move. I'm like terrified. I'm really scared,
Yeah.
right? The light's getting brighter. Then it gets worse for me. Then I hear a girl whispering in my ear, like, I can't, it's freaking me out. I'm really scared. I'm paralyzed. My pillow's wet. It's like I just jumped in a pool. I finally get to sleep, and I wake up the next morning. I go down to the owner, and I'm like, can I speak to you for a minute? He's like, yeah, what's going on? I'm like, I had an experience upstairs. He's like, oh, the ghost, right? I'm like, pardon? Ghost? He's like, yeah, that's actually the most haunted place is the upstairs in the bed and breakfast inn. It's not a big deal, though. We just don't tell anybody, but it's very haunted up there. And needless to say, I'm like, so that wasn't in the brochure when I came here. I didn't want a haunted honeymoon. So it was a haunted honeymoon, and needless to say, after I spoke to him about that, he's like, oh, well, you're going to stay another night? I'm like, think I'll be checking out now.
Right.
I laughed.
I probably would too.
I laughed. I mean,
we
like,
love this stuff, but some stuff is just a little too much.
like I'm going home. It's like, I didn't bargain for this. This is cramping my whole style on my honeymoon. I'm leaving. This is it. I don't want no
Right.
more incorporeal voices, white lights under my door.
Right.
Okay, the cookies are great, but I'm leaving.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's how that wound up.
Right. I mean, the only personal experience that I can come up with, I mean, I lived in a house, probably, it was here in town.
Nice.
And I came home one day, and the mother of my daughter says to me, "Oh, the vase fell down by itself today." Now, what vase I'm talking about? It was this very skinny little vase. It was probably yay high.
Couple feet.
And we had it there for quite some time.
Wasn't going anywhere.
It wasn't going anywhere. It was right next to the little entertainment center we had in the living room. And but before that had happened, we'd come home sometimes and we'd see picture frames just on from the tables, just turned over. And this is where you're talking like
Totally flat?
It was actually on the opposite side. The picture side was
really?
down.
No kidding.
So the flap was up. And
Nobody did it.
it was like, how the heck is that happening? So that's almost about the same time that I started getting into the paranormal, like I had spoke earlier.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So one day, like I said, I came home and she mentioned that the vase fallen down. I said, okay, whatever. So sometime after, I'm sitting watching TV, and just at the corner of my eye, I just happened to look at the vase. Maybe it started shaking. And I looked over, and it literally just fell down.
Just went like pop.
And it looked like someone had
Pushed it with their
just
finger?
a little bit of energy, just pushed it over. So I said...
And there wasn't
I said,
windows open for wind in the room or anything of that nature, right?
Right. There was everything was closed up, So I yelled out to my daughter's mother at the time, and I said, "Oh, the vase just fell over." She's like, "See, I told you, I wasn't lying." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't think you were, but
I had to see for
I had to
myself.
see for myself."
Right.
So
Exactly.
the course of time, we put it back, and it fell over a number of times, and I tried to debunk it the best I could. I
Good.
jumped around the floor.
To see if it would.
I even pushed around the carpet to
See
get
if
the
there's any
leverage.
loose
If it
boarding
would
or
just
something.
tip over,
Right,
nothing would happen.
It just went.
Right.
Right.
And then, so that stopped. And one night, which way did it start? It was one night where I was actually, I was trying to get my daughter to sleep. And for some odd reason, I felt like something was looking at me in the bedroom. And now my daughter at the time was an infant. So, she was
Wasn't
in my bed
her.
trying to get her to huh?
Wasn't her.
No, it wasn't her.
Wasn't her.
And it just seemed like
You felt like
somebody
being
was
watched,
staring
right?
at me, and then the room got darker. And let me tell you something: when people talk about the paranormal, and they say, or they're in a dark room, but it seemed like it got even more dark. It literally gets blacker than black. It's incredible.
It's
You have
like
to
the absence
experience
of
it.
light. You know what I mean? Like it's just that dark.
It's that dark.
That dark.
And I said, I'm gonna do something crazy, and if something happens,
Something happens.
I'm gonna freak out, right? So what I did was,
But you did it.
I sort of like waved to the area where I thought there was this
Something watching you?
watching me. So I kind of went like this, waved, and as soon as I did that, the shade on the window was closed, and what it did, it like blew open, probably a good 3-4 inches from the window, facing the window. The funny thing is that the window wasn't open for the wind to blow through. So
You may have got a response.
It was very creepy. It
Pretty
was very-
brave to do it in the total dark, though. You're kind of like, look, you're asking for trouble, huh? Like, hey.
Right.
You're asking for trouble.
But it felt like it was something that I had to find out because it just
Piqued your
felt like
interest.
somebody was there, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I know something's there. I'm gonna do something, and I'm gonna
And that's
freak
kind
out.
of where the adventure started for you, right?
Right.
After
And-
that, you were hooked.
And after that, yeah, I mean, there
You're
was
hooked.
another time. I think it was actually the night before, believe it or not, where I'm laying in bed on my back. We're watching TV, and I felt like somebody took 2 fingers and stuck them right into my stomach, like just going like this. And I've never been touched by a spirit, at least that I was aware of.
That you know of.
But when you feel like a little cramp or a little something going on in your skin or in your body,
You're
you
like,
can tell the
whatever.
difference.
Yeah, between
But
the
this was
touch.
like inside, where it was just a little bit off. It didn't feel like something
Was
naturally going on in my body.
It was from without, not within. That's what
Right,
you're saying. You
yeah.
felt like somebody went like, not like,
right.
oh, I got a cramp. I'm not
Right.
feeling too hot.
And
Right.
but while we lived there, nothing harmed us. I didn't fear anything there.
Yeah, you didn't have like a bad feeling. Oh, this is
Right.
something sinister.
Right. And and that's why I like to tell people also that if you're experiencing something to that nature in your home and it's not causing any harm, I wouldn't worry about it. It's just something that's likes to play with you. It wants to know that you're there. I'm sorry. It wants you to know that it's there.
That's why it's trying to make contact with you, not in a negative way.
Right, and that's if something wants to harm you, that's a whole different topic. Again, like we talked about earlier,
demons and spirits are totally different animals.
You're talking like you
Apples
probably have a better
oranges.
chance of winning the Mega Millions than having a demon in your house.
Because honestly, this is really important about that stuff. Like, people can have hauntings in their houses, right? Spirits. But for you to have a demon in your house, the only way you're going to have that kind of activity is if you invite it in. Demons are really big on saying, hey, knock, knock, knock. Yeah, sure, come on in. They have to ask.
Yeah.
They can't just be like popping in your house and chilling out. It's like you have to let them in by doing something, playing something they're supposed to play with. So that's the kind of thing is you have to open the door for them. And if you don't open the door, they're not going to come and mess with you. It's plain and simple. It's really easy not to have them mess with you. Just don't play with things you shouldn't play with. But if you do, you're running that risk.
Right. And I want to since we're on the topic of this stuff and we're trying to bring the show a little more towards like longer. Bring this up. I want people to be aware of also the misconception of ghosts being like demons of Satan. There's certain people that believe that, and
that all spirits are evil. That's not
listen,
true.
The way I see it, and this is my beliefs, if a spirit is meant to harm you, it will. It's not going to pretend it's somebody of deceased that died in your family. It's not going to just hang around and just twiddle its thumbs around.
Right.
If it's going to harm you, it's going to harm you.
It's going to do it.
So
it's not going to wait.
I would love for people to scratch that out of their head and say, if it's a spirit, it's a good spirit.
There's good and bad spirits.
They're playing around. They're letting us know that they're there. And
right.
Yada yada yada.
Like a spirit. Me, Brett. We're all going to be spirits one day. Nobody lives forever. I got news for you. The one thing you have to do in life, other than pay taxes, is check out. So, on that answer. Like Brett is a good guy, so God forbid when he passes away, he's going to stay a good guy. If Brett was a mean guy and he liked to hurt people.
And I will probably just haunt Tom over here.
It's okay, because I'm going to haunt him too. It's not going to end there.
I will bug you every day.
Well, you better touch that K2 meter when I'm, don't be playing with me. Go in front of the laser grid, because if I have it, I want to use it. No, I'm playing.
Right. Well, that's funny, though. That's funny. But, yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I can think of. Anything you'd like to add, Tom? Or?
Well, I think you got a good idea of who we are and, our passion for the paranormal. And, we're serious about it, yet we like to have fun. We're not going to come to your home and, try to we're really nice people and, we just want to help you out. We're here to help you.
Exactly.
And, that, that's all we want to do. We just want to help you out and tell you what you have and, not to be frightened. But if it is something serious, I'm not saying we can drive it out of your house, but, my end of it is the demonology in theology and philosophy. So I do know some things that could help. I know about saging, and I know some other rituals that could help. But if, you have something really, really nasty like the demonic, well, that's more your local clergy or your priest or your rabbi or whatever, religion that you subscribe to. Mm-hmm. And we could point you in the right direction where to go for that. But we could kind of help, too. We could tell you things that could maybe lessen it. But, we just give an introduction to us, and that's what we're about. We just want to help.
Yeah, and we've been doing this a number of years. We have experience. We know what we're doing when we go into a home.
Yep.
Again, this is just something that we enjoy, and something. It's like my daughter loves riding a horse. She loves horses now, and I've been told that once a little girl falls in love with a horse, they'll just ride him forever and never and ever. That's like what we're doing. Once we fell in love with the paranormal, it's just very different. You just don't want to give it up.
Even when we're 80, we're going to be rolling around in wheelchairs with our K2 meters.
Exactly. Yeah.
With our K2 meters.
Right.
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed our show. But before we go, we'd like to share with some great news with you. We're working with NCAT to bring you Northborough's very own paranormal TV series. It'll include Tom and myself, and to investigate people's homes for the paranormal activity. So if you're interested in having us come to your home for a filming episode, just give us a call. And also know that we keep the location of your home or property confidential.
Absolutely.
So that's all the time we have for today. And remember,
Stay scared.
happy Halloween, everybody.